This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris. Welcome to Come for Tea. Fresh scones are delicious. In this episode, we're going to learn how to make some that you can use for afternoon tea. I'll show you how to make a quick drop scone and also a traditional scone. I'll even share my faux clotted cream recipe with you. That, along with some strawberry jam on a fresh scone, it really doesn't get better than that. Before we get started, let's talk about scone mix. I love scone mix sometimes because it makes things quick and easy, and Sticky Fingers makes an excellent scone mix. So let's use one of their mixes and make some drop scones. Start by putting a piece of parchment onto a baking sheet. Then I'm going to take a bag of the Sticky Fingers original cream scone mix and put that in a bowl. Now with their scone mixes, you can use any kind of liquid. You could use water, you could use heavy cream. I'm just going to use some skim milk. Pour that in and then just start giving it a light toss. You don't want to stir it hard because you don't want the scones to be tough like golf balls at the end, but just stir them lightly together. Now, once everything is mixed together, I get out my medium-sized ice cream scoop and I just start making little balls of dough using my ice cream scoop right onto the parchment paper. This technique is fast and easy and your hands don't get all sticky with dough. I always like to keep a plain scone mix on hand because I like to flavor my scones with different things. Sometimes I use a cinnamon chip and make cinnamon chip scones. They're fantastic. But today what I'm going to do with the other half of my batter is I'm going to make some chocolate chip scones. Very simple. You just take the rest of your batter and add some chocolate chips into it. There's no exact measurement, so just eyeball it. Give it a little stir with your spatula. Now when you use a bag of scone mix like this, you usually get 12 to 18 scones out of it. So what you can do is just make half of the batter with the cream scone and then add whatever flavoring you'd like to the other half and just drop it onto the cookie sheet just like we did the other ones. Some of the other flavors I like to make is if I have some fresh fruits on hand, sometimes you can stir that in. A lot of times I like to add lemon zest or orange zest also. It really adds a nice flavor, like blueberry with lemon zest is a great scone. And then before I pop these in the oven, I do like to give a little sprinkle of sugar on top of each one. It just gives it a nice little sweet crunch when I go to bite into them after they're baked. These scones take only about 12 minutes to bake in the oven, so it doesn't take long at all. And then once you get them out of the oven, it's really important to slide that parchment sheet with the scones onto a cooling rack as quick as you can so they stop baking. Let them cool just a little bit and then they're ready to serve. Next, I'm going to show you how I make my traditional scones. They're light and fluffy and they are just delicious. Now before we get started, let me just remind you that all of our recipes are on the website. Just go to the Come for Tea show notes. Okay, so we're going to start by putting a piece of parchment paper on a baking sheet. And then we're going to get a mixing bowl. And we're going to put in 2 cups of an all-purpose flour. Then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Now that's a lot of baking powder, but we really do want these scones to be nice and light. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar just to give it a little sweetness. And then we're going to be adding a little salt, about a half a teaspoon. Then take a pastry blender and just start mixing things together. Get about 6 tablespoons of a cold, unsalted butter. And I cut them into cubes, and then I put them right into the flour mixture. And then I'm going to take my pastry blender and I'm going to start mixing that butter into the flour. What I'm looking to do is to get that butter broken down into the flour, but not really fine. When you're done, you should be able to see some fairly decent sized chunks of butter in your mixture. Then I sprinkle a little flour on the parchment paper, and then I take all the dough and put it right in the center. Sprinkle a little flour on top of the dough and start pressing the dough out. What you're looking for is a nice round circle. And if you've noticed that the dough starts to stick to your hands a little bit, just sprinkle a little bit more flour. Once you're done, you should really get to about an 8-inch in diameter circle. Now take a long bladed knife and cut your scones, just kind of score it through in half. And then you're going to take the half and do that in half. Now you'll notice the batter is starting to stick to the knife a little bit, so I'm just going to put a little flour on there just to kind of help let it release a little bit. And then I'm going to take each quarter and do that in half. Basically, when I'm done here, I'm looking to have 8 triangles of scones. Now you'll notice I'm not pushing them apart. I'm just kind of scoring the dough, and believe it or not, that little bit of scoring is going to help separate them after they're baked. Now, got everything scored. Now, a lot of times you'll have a little bit of half and half in the bottom of your measuring cup. And so what I do is I just take that little bit and I kind of pat it on the top of it just to give it a little liquid. If you didn't have much left in your cup, you could just sprinkle some on. And then just like the drop scones, I like to take a little bit of sugar and sprinkle it on top of the scones before I pop them in the oven. Then these scones are going to go into a 425-degree oven, a little hotter, for about 15 minutes. But again, they come out beautiful, and slide them right off your baking sheet as soon as you can so they can start to cool. Next, I'll show you how I make my faux clotted cream. It's wonderful to make. You can make it ahead of time, and it keeps in the fridge for about a week. First, start with about 3 ounces of cream cheese and about 1 tablespoon of sugar, and then pop it in your blender and let it kind of cream up together. Then you're going to want to add 1 cup of heavy whipping cream and add it in kind of slowly so it doesn't spray all over. And you're going to go ahead and keep that beating because you're going to want to get this kind of heavy and stiff like a whipping cream. But the thing is that the cream cheese is going to help stabilize it so it doesn't fall apart. And then to give it a little flavoring, I just put in a splash of vanilla. And just keep beating until it gets nice and light and thick. That looks just great. See how thick that is? Really easy to spread on a scone. So then just take it and spoon it into some kind of a container that has a nice tight fitting lid. And then like I said, you can put it in the fridge for up to a week. So you could certainly make this ahead of a tea that you are having and then have some on hand for a couple of days after the tea. When it's time to serve, just find a pretty little serving bowl and put some of the clotted cream in it. Then another very traditional thing to serve with clotted cream on scones is some strawberry jam. Now you can also do something delicious and have the clotted cream along with some curd, like a lemon curd, be fantastic. So whether you're just having a scone with a cup of tea to relax or you're having them with a full afternoon tea, I really hope you'll give scones a chance. They're very easy to make and they are delicious. For more information on this episode, go to our website and visit the Come for Tea show notes. Also, if you have any questions or ideas, send us an email. Thanks for watching. It's time for tea.